This is the report to update the recent negotiations on where to put Hythe swimming pool and what we would do with the Princess Parade site. So we've now moved on from when we didn't accept the offer from Hythe back to looking at Princess Parade for the swimming pool and leisure centre, and we've also not had any positive response from County Council on putting a new school there, so now we've got a new scheme to consider, and this is the report that does it for you. I'll pass you over to Andy Jarrett.
Thank you, Chairman. Yes, as you said, Cabinet in November last year decided that the Council should prepare a planning application for a comprehensive mixed-use redevelopment of its land at Princess Parade. And it required that the uses and the extent of the uses should first be determined at a future meeting of Cabinet, and that's what you're about to do now. The uses that we are proposing and set out in the report include considerable amounts of public open space, where we think there are significant improvements that can be made to both the promenade and beachfront and also to the setting of the canal. And in addition to that, it's possible to open up a considerable amount of new land, as we call that, public open space. The report indicates something in the order of 2.88 hectares within that land use. We've also approved in the past a specification for a new recreation centre, which includes the replacement of swimming pool and park. We estimate that that would take approximately 0.8 of a hectare, and so we asked to approve that as part of the extent. We've included a recommendation that new homes, which are much needed in the area, should be included, and as you see, we've suggested that that should include provision for the elderly, affordable homes and starter homes. We suggest that the canoe centre and its environs are taken account of, and think the scope to improve the setting for that use. As the Chief Executive has mentioned, we've had discussions with Hythe and Saltwood Yacht Club, who are outgrowing their current premises and are looking to possibilities for relocation, and we ask that that should be included as part of the debate. In addition to that, we're suggesting that a small area of land should be used for small commercial uses such as fish restaurant, cafe, bar, which we think will add vitality to the overall mix. So the first recommendation is to accept those uses, and the second is that a detailed report be prepared in the future to come back to Cabinet prior to the submission of the plan application.
Thanks, Jarrett. Open to you, councillors. Councillor Dearden.
Thank you, Chairman and Leader. First of all, I'd like to raise the issues that have been raised with me on the email from local residents. Leslie Wybrow sent me an email today that her view was that this did not fit in with the resolution that there be no more than 36 houses, that there was no sense to undertake a yacht club since boats would have to be carried across the road. Mr. Corner raised an issue and concern about 2- and 3-storey properties and landmark properties, some potentially higher, the amount of concreting over the site, the aspect of cafes and ice cream kiosks, and refers again to the Cabinet Resolution May 2014 in November, and the report C115 38. The fact that there are 150 houses, which will change the nature of Princess Parade, his fears over the potential development for the golf course, He queries whether the density that's proposed or implied is necessary. He also queries what will happen with the 106 monies from Martello Lakes, what happens to the current yacht club if there is a land exchange, and what happens with the finances from the current swimming pool, and that there is no, at the moment, financial information available and no information as to build times, and I suspect that that would happen as the report comes forward, and whether the pool would be built before the housing and how that would affect the pool if there was a continuing construction, and what level of decontamination is proposed. Jean Baker from Folkestone raises the aspect of Princess Parade, saying that it's unique and special place, integral to the beauty of the Royal Military Canal. Scheduled ancient monument, Princess Parade relies on a congenial public space. She refers to Lee Evans' report, which recommended that housing be omitted, and why not refurbish the existing pool to a standard that would be acceptable. Accessibility, Martello Lakes as the option. Jeff Burrell, possible arrangements with a third party. Are there any possible arrangements with a third party? Broad nature of any arrangements that should be discussed, since an expenditure of £500,000 is proposed. From my own point of view, I've raised those issues on behalf of those residents. I said that I would do so. My position's always been that I want a swimming pool for Hythe, convenient and accessible to the people of Hythe. My preference was always the existing swimming pool. That can't happen. I still feel that we lost a chance with regard to the putting the swimming pool on the green. And as I understand it, that was an insurance situation rather than a legal situation, because an application could have been made to the Lands Tribunal. And Martello Lakes, I would like to see, in conjunction with the report that we're going to bring forward, an indication, a clear, lucid indication as to why Martello Lakes is not a viable proposition. I know we've said various reasons why it's not a viable proposition, but I would like to see it in a report saying black and white, Martello Lakes is not appropriate because of this, this and this. So what I would like to also raise, and I've raised it many times, and this is probably the last opportunity I would have, I would like to see some consideration as to the engineering and financial position of constructing a jetty adjacent to presumably where the present or the new sailing club will be located, and I feel that would be beneficial to Hythe in that it would provide an ability to use the sea fully to the extent that it should be, instead of hauling things across a beach and what have you. So I would be proposing that there be an amendment to the recommendations, that there be a report as to the viability of a jetty by way of engineering and cost, that KCC should be asked for a written definitive response to the fact of no education on the site. We wanted a school on that site. A clear, rational and full explanation of the viability of Martello Lakes. And I don't want blind Alice. I want to get this pool going. If it's going to be on Princess Parade, I want to know that we're not going to stop and then finish up at Martello Lakes. So I would also ask that we also consider whether we ought to be running in tandem to this report, again, the situation with regard to Martello Lakes. Now, my position is quite clear, Leader. I support a swimming pool, and if the only viable option is on Princess Parade, then that's where it's going to go. However, I think that certainly the people in Hythe, a proportion of the people in Hythe would like to see transparency. And this is transparency in that this should have been in a confidential item because of the yacht club's requirements. It's now in the open and it's being filmed, which is a good thing. thank you for your patience. And if I've got a seconder, I've got a seconder. If I haven't, then it doesn't go any further.
Before I asked for a seconder, you actually made about 6 points. And I think we perhaps ought to address some of those before we ask whether you've got a seconder or not. Firstly, you asked for the KCC definitive answer. Whilst I'm perfectly happy to put it in a resolution that we do that again, I have done it. And the answer is sitting on the fence, well, we won't be committed, but we're not doing it. As they have no money, I can't see where they would do it. So I think that would be, whilst I could put it in, I've already done that. I've written to them asking for the ultimatum, and I've asked for confirmation of the ultimatum, and I'm not getting a absolute definitive, but I'm certainly not getting a positive. So I would suggest that that would be a waste of time. Okay. So some of the other points there, I need to first of all take a little advice on. You heard all of those. For instance, the costing of a jetty. Is that a feasible thing to do along with this? We think that that is quite possible. The running of 2 schemes parallel, would there be a cost implication in that?
I think what I would say is that there's absolutely no good purpose served by submitting a planning application that's unrealistic. So yes, we will be checking various aspects of the scheme to ensure that it's deliverable. And I think all of the time that we're exploring the possibility of relocation of the yacht club, part of that must be to explore the means by which boats are launched. So yes, we would have to look at the viability of that aspect.
Okay. I think I've covered 2 or 3 of your points there. Which is the others?
Well, we've covered the tandem scheme with regard to, we've covered the tandem scheme with regard to Martello Lakes. We've covered the question of the jetty. I did raise issues that constituents have raised concerning the, I think it ought to be cleared away that there is no person or business or entity presently involved with Shepway District Council.
That doesn't need a resolution, and I can get a statement for that. So what we're boiling down your resolution to, if that you are looking for a seconder for, I hope I've interpreted correctly, is for the costing of a jetty to be considered, with an eye on Nichols Quarry, because if you've heard, we don't want to do parallel work. There is a cost implication, and why would you do it?
The only reason I would answer that, Leader, is that I don't want to find ourselves in November with a report coming forward that the scheme for Princess Parade cannot progress beyond because of, and therefore we will have then lost the best part of a year in not looking at the alternative. Not that I'm supporting the alternative.
Okay, I'll bring Jenny in there.
Well, I was just going to say on that, maybe it's my misunderstanding, but I thought Andy said that the issues that you've raised would actually be considered as part of that planning application because you would not submit a planning application that was not going to be carried out. So I think that what Andy has actually just said, in my opinion, actually covers what you've raised. I could be wrong.
Okay. I'm just going to ask for clarification I think that this mysterious person came from the fact that we were putting things on pink paper, which I abhor having to do it. If we can't do it, if we can get away with not doing it, I like to do that. However, you heard the explanation for why it was, but I will now ask the Chief to give you a categorical assurance that there was no other party involved.
Well, I'm going to ask Councillor Dearden to be very clear about about his question. Is the question just that there was no other third party and no development partner involved, or is it just that who was the third party? Because I'm quite clear. I need to know what the question is, because I am quite clear that the third party was, as I said, the Hythe and Saltwood Sailing Club, who only gave me permission at 20 to 7 yesterday evening to disclose that they were the third party. But I don't want to answer the wrong question, and I also don't want to be led into. I want to know what the question is, and I will then answer it.
I was always taught in cross-examination never to ask a question you don't know the answer to, and I don't know the answer. What I'm asking you is whether the perception out there is that there is a secret, hidden individual or entity that has already entered into negotiations and discussions with Shepway with a view to developing this site. That's what they think. Now, it arose because this was a pink paper, and out into the press last Thursday came the suggestion that there was the implication was there was a developer. And on Street Live, I gather, on Monday, it was raised again. So the public think that there is someone in conjunction with us at the moment, at the background, being prepared to step in to have a development on Princess Parade. My understanding is that there isn't, but I'm asking that question because I've been asked that question, and I think for transparency's sake, I don't think there is, but it would be helpful to have a definitive statement so that the public can go away and not look for reds under the bed, or perhaps a secret treaty between Charles II and France, that kind of a situation.
That's the point at which you lose me when you start talking about treaties with France. There is no development partner negotiations going on at all with the officers of Shepway. No development partner negotiations at all. The only third party was the one I've already mentioned.
Thank you. I believe that covers that point. Right. So now we come back down to
I was going to ask about this jetty that Councillor did and was looking for a seconder.
yes.
And I want to know exactly what he means by a jetty, because a jetty means a different thing to different people. Is he asking for a ramp in which dinghies can run up and down the shingle to launch? Is he looking for a jetty which a ferry can come in alongside to go to Boulogne? Is he looking for a jetty to put an oil pipeline in? What does he mean by a jetty?
Councillor Deirdre, would you like to answer?
I'm not looking for a jetty that you could put the Pride of Burgundy into. I'm looking for a jetty that juts out into the sea and is capable of rising. And look, I was told shifting shingle can't do it, and yet there we have stone groins that are being put in, and it is engineeringly possible to put a proper jetty in so that boats can come in, yachts can come in and pull up, debouch or whatever you do, get off the thing and perhaps go out, or to provide Hythe, which is after all the centre of the bay, with some facility for boats to come in. Now, you then, in fanciful mood, when we were talking about the prospect of a cruise liner that was wanting to go into Folkestone. I've been on enough cruise liners to see when you can berth your cruise liner outside of the port or whatever and tender it. And I've been on very small jetties in Greece and whatever. I just think that, well, it looks as though Councillor Love is tired and bored and looking to the heaven. I will have to do that sometime when Councillor Love is speaking. However, I'm just looking for the idea of a jetty. Now, it may be that somebody will say, oh, expert, you can't do it. Now, I know you're a captain, and I know you're a ship's master and all that, and I know you sail yachts all over the world. I accept that, but I wanted to raise this issue and I've raised it. If I don't get a seconder, it doesn't happen. If I do get a seconder, we can look at it and somebody can say whether it's possible or not.
In that case, I'm not prepared to second that idea because I think it's a crazy idea. What Councillor Dearden was originally talking about was a marina, because yachts just can't come in and tie up alongside a floating pontoon when you have Force 8 coming up the channel. You have to have proper protection for yachts so people can get on and off. They've built a marina in Brighton, which is a total fiasco. It's all silting up. It's cost millions and millions of pounds. I don't think it's a realistic opportunity for us here in our exposed coast with shifting shingle to put a jetty. So I can't support that idea.
Right. Now, let me just get absolutely clear, where has your amendment got to?
If I could I just sort of be clear, because there is no proposal on the table, so therefore there is no amendment. I'm going to be pedantic now. There is no proposal on the table, therefore is no amendment. His suggested amendment to the recommendations, which could form a proposal, is actually what Councillor Dearden is talking about.
Right, okay. In those highly pedantic terms, where are you with it?
Well, where we are is we have recommendations, and I'm proposing an amendment to those recommendations, which then, I suppose, I'm also proposing the recommendations. I'm proposing an amendment to paragraph 2 of those recommendations that we take into account. It refers to Schedule 3, paragraph 3 of the report, where it states, uses and extensive uses, Schedule 3 of the report that's been provided by the experts. It's used as the basis for the preparation of application for planning consent. It lists a number of things in the report. Who wrote the report? Trimble? Yeah. If you look at the recommendation of paragraph 2, it states that the uses and extensive uses as set out in section 3 of the report be used as a basis for the preparation of application for planning permission for the Principal Ray site. What I would be doing is amending that to extend it to consideration as to a report on the viability of the construction of a jetty adjacent to Sea Point and the new proposed sailing club. And additionally, if I can catch up with things, I raised the issue of we talked about a tandem report, but I understand that basically that's going to be included in the planning application.
I think we need clarity on that. As I understand it, we won't proceed with the Princess Parade project if there is an impediment to go forward with planning permission. Is at that time we would look for a parallel.
Yeah, which strikes at my worry that we get to November and there is an impediment to proceed, and we've not considered the viability of Martello Lakes, and we find ourselves.
Can I say that were that to be the case, in any case, as we understand it, Martello Lakes would not happen in a short time span, so we would have more than enough time to do the detailed preparation work. What I don't want to do is spend money doing detailed preparation work for no good end. So if I could persuade you not to put that bit in, fine. Then that just leaves, do you have a seconder for the jetty?
I do not.
No, you don't, I'm afraid. Okay. Open to all councillors. Councillor Mascari.
Thank you. I do think we ought to try and get the officers to respond to some of the points Councillor Dearden raised earlier that had been raised by him on behalf of constituents. I hope the officer was taking notes and can go through them. Otherwise, I have the email in front of me and we can go through them if you like.
I've written out the basic points.
can read my writing.
Right.
There's one concern about the number of homes that were described. The 150 is being derived from a submission on to the local plan, which specifies 150, and I think that was referred to in the Cabinet report in November. There's concern about the height of buildings, but we're simply not at the stage at the moment where we're identifying heights of buildings. It says concern about 2 or 3 story height. I mean, my own opinion would be 2 or 3 story height is quite appropriate, depending on where it's sited.
Would it be that a lot of these queries are actually and will come out as part of the planning application?
I think essentially that's the main point. What we're asking for this evening is authority to go on and undertake some proper survey work. The plan will follow the survey and the analysis, and we simply aren't at that point in time.
Okay. Councillors? Councillor, this is...
I was going to ask if we could go back a step, but just on that, will the detailed planning application come to Cabinet before it goes to planning?
Yes, that's what this recommendation
Right,
says.
I just wanted to confirm that. So we will have the opportunity to have a look at this before it actually goes
Yeah.
to planning. Fine, okay, that's what I thought. I just wonder if we could go back slightly to Hythe Green. And I wonder, we're in open session, it's the first opportunity we've had to say in public exactly why Hythe Green is not acceptable to us because of the impediment, really, if you like. So I wonder if somebody could actually explain so that it's out in the public, in a public domain. I know it's been in the public domain, but I think it would be quite useful if it could actually be explained tonight.
Chief, I've actually issued statements.
I don't actually have the Hythe Green file and issues of the legal advice to hand. I was just checking whether my colleagues do. It relates to a previous debate and a minute that you passed based on taking some council's opinion. The council's opinion is not going to be made public, and the law makes it very clear as to why it wouldn't be. But I can't answer your question because I don't have the files. I'd love to. Just checking if I had anything to actually help you, Councillor Hornsby, but I don't actually have that. We had some advice. You considered that advice, and you only took that advice because of a condition placed on the use of the green and actually on that deal from Hythe Town Council. And I have to, and again, I'm trying to recall the debate now. As I understand it, everyone accepted it was a very reasonable condition to place if you were Hythe Town Council, but slightly unreasonable if you were to accept that from this side. So there was one of those issues that you took advice, the council's opinion, gave you that opinion, and you decided not to proceed. But I can't go into it because I don't have the file in front of me. I'm sorry, Councillor, I'm struggling.
I think that's really what I wanted to be heard at this meeting, that we had considered it, we'd taken legal advice, we'd come to the conclusion that we could not risk council payers' money on a site that we couldn't be absolutely sure had no impediment on it, and I'm sure Council...
I really don't want to rehearse that whole meeting again. We are here considering the Princess Parade. Statements have been made, very detailed statements have been made about why we can't do it, and it's also quite invidious that we keep putting the Hythe Town councillors under the pressure. did you not hear that? I'm saying I think we've had enough on a failed application, and we're dealing with this particular report. Can we concentrate on this report? Okay. Any other councillor wish to speak to this report? Councillor Ms. Carey.
Yes, I think we should speak to what's before us tonight. We obviously were obliged to look at the offer that we had from Hyde. It didn't work out. We're all disappointed because of that. But actually what we have here, I think, is something that is very desirable for Hyde. I think the success of the Harbour Arm shows just what can be done, and that without the school, it's obvious that we need to develop it differently, and hence the extra housing. But look at how much public space there is, and if you can think back to the Royal Military Canal and the changes that were done there, those there were certain people who thought that those would lead to bad outcomes, and in fact it's helped the whole area enormously, and I see this as very much something that will work for Hyde, and with us in control, we should be able to make sure that it's something that is a development we can all be proud of. And I'm very happy to move the recommendation.
Thank
if
you.
that's
Do
what
you have a
wish.
seconder? Councillor Godfrey. Councillor Stewart.
Thank you, Chairman. My only comment really is with regards to the leisure centre. Bear in mind my position as cycling guru for the district, and the fact that we have the development of the coastal cycling track going very much past this particular area. If we could incorporate some cycling facilities within the planning going forward as well, that would be immensely useful. Thank you.
Yes, that's confirmed. Councillor James.
Yes, I suppose in a way I should declare an interest, a personal interest, because for 40 years I've lived in Cliff Road in Hythe, overlooking Princess Parade. So I do understand some of the contentious issues which other people have raised, those people living in the Seabrook End especially. I do recognise that. However, being pragmatic, I find this a very exciting project, especially as we're bringing the water sports into sort of a central position, as it were. And although we might not be nice to have a jetty, it is not obviously practical, in my opinion, to do so. But I think it's a very exciting project, this. It's been going on for quite a long time. We've been waiting for a swimming pool in Hythe for, well, I don't know how many years, 8 years now, whatever it is. And let's get on with it. And I'm really pleased to support this report. Thank you.
Councillor Love.
Thank you, Leader. I too remember looking out across Princess Parade from my childhood house in Cliff Road. Actually, slightly longer ago than 40 years, I have to admit to, because it was long enough ago to see the bulldozers filling Princess Parade with landfill. And I'm extremely pleased that we're now getting to the stage where we're turning a former landfill site, or developing proposals to turn the former landfill site into something which does offer some really exciting prospects. I welcome the outline at option 1. I think that is recognising this is a very broad outline, and as Mr. Jarrett's explained, there's some detailed planning issues to be looked at before anybody uses this almost as a master plan. It's not that. It is as I understand it, and he'll correct me, I'm sure, if I'm wrong, it's just an indicative outline of what is possible. But what I'm pleased to see is that it incorporates the concept of some parkland, some open space. It uses that not just in one location, but uses it to enhance the setting of the Royal Military Canal, which at that end of the canal, let's face it, is not actually the best setting. The look of the derelict land, if you like, on Princess Parade does nothing to enhance the setting of the Royal Military Canal, and I think there is scope to do more there, and colleagues will remember the discussion when we first said that we want to see some green space that's actually open to the public, not green space that you have to clamber over bunds to get to, or risk stepping in some fairly unpleasant, well, what's inside the buns. So I welcome that. I also welcome the vision to incorporate some of the attractions, if you like, that people just might want to use along a seaside setting, like a seafood restaurant, like ice cream kiosks. I'm well aware of people, colleagues, friends, family even, who have used that part of the beach over many, many years, many decades. And you go to the beach and then you find there's not actually an ice cream kiosk, or there's not actually somewhere to go and have a tea or a coffee. And wouldn't it be great if people can do that? I think that actually enhances the enjoyment of the beach. So I welcome that inclusion. I was actually, I think I was looking to the skies earlier to think, yes, I finally heard the sentence that I wanted, which is my good colleague over there saying he wants to get this swimming pool going. Because I was starting to wonder at one stage, but I think it's just the way he leads into these things. But I do want to see this going, and I absolutely welcome that. And like him, and I think I'm using similar words to Councillor Dearden, I want a swimming pool for Shepway in Hythe. And I think that's something that we've always wanted. And there is a time when you just have to get on and do it. The circumstances have changed. We were first under the impression that there may be scope to get a school on this land. Well, it's pretty clear to me that that is not going to happen. And so we need to adapt. We need to change our view on exactly what the breakdown of apportionment of the land is going to be. But the key thing, and I think we mustn't forget this, the key thing all the way through is to get that replacement swimming pool. Only last week the current swimming pool was closed again. We see it time and time and time again. Sometimes it's because of damage from a storm, sometimes it's for other reasons. At the end of the day, it is worn out. I mean, the sort of times that Councillor Hewitt-James and I were looking over at Prince's Parade was about the same time that swimming pool was built, and it needs replacing. And there'll come a time when it simply packs up and there won't be any more public money to spend on it. And so I think we have to grasp the nettle now and get on with it. And I'm very pleased that there wasn't the support to run some kind of parallel operation to look at another site, because I think that would have opened up a whole different debate, because there are many of us that would need some persuading that other site at Nichols Quarry, Martello Lakes, is actually the right location for the swimming pool for Shepway in Hythe. Because actually, that's not in Hythe. That's further down, it's out, you'll see most people in Hythe having to go somewhere else to get there. I've never been a big fan of that. I could be persuaded if the circumstances are such that there is no alternative. But we're not at that stage, and that's why I support these proposals. I hope that the detailed planning work does take account of some of the discussion that's taken place today, including some of the very important points that Councillor Dearden raised, because there have been a number of us who have seen the emails with just some detailed points, but they must be considered at the detailed stage, not for now, but they must be considered. So I certainly, I think it has been seconded, hasn't it? But I'm certainly very much in support of moving at pace on this.
Councillor Godfrey.
Thank you, Chairman. Yes, I did second this report because I agree with my colleagues on the left that this is a very exciting possibility to enhance that area. We're not talking just about a swimming pool, we're talking about a leisure centre which brings more facility to the area, which I think is a very important point and helps to pay for the whole thing. I think as long as we go ahead and keep our promise to protect the environment, to protect the visual impact on the canal, and we can actually enhance that, I believe, by building this properly. And I believe that this will bring a very great, very welcome opportunity to many people to come and live and work in a new environment, and that's why I second this. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Dear.
Yes. I mean, I support option 1 because that's the option that is going to lead to a swimming pool. All I wanted to do was to ensure that we didn't lose time if it becomes not a viable project. And as a point of information to Councillor Love, Hythe goes to beyond where Nichols Quarry is. It goes to the redoubt. That's the boundary of Hythe. So it would be within Hythe, but I fully accept, that the people of Hythe do not want to travel out to that position when there is a more convenient place. However, I wanted to put forward arguments that were put to me and that should be out in the open, and the people of Hythe should have the ability to put those arguments. Whether those arguments are accepted is another issue, and I will certainly be voting for option 1 and the recommendations, but that doesn't stop me from raising those issues.
Absolutely right, yes. Councillor Miss Carey.
Thank you. In fact, Councillor Godfrey made the point I wanted to, which was that we're talking about a leisure centre, not a swimming pool, because a swimming pool on its own will lose us money year after year, and that's one of the reasons why we can't have a new swimming pool where it is, because in order to be sustainable for the future it needs to be a leisure centre so that it has other streams of income, and we also don't want to be without a swimming pool for a number of years whilst one is pulled down and another built. So it's a leisure centre, and I think it's a project that people are longing for us to get on with, and certainly one of the parish council meetings I attended recently, we were urged in no uncertain terms to just get on with it, please.
Thank you. Unless there's any other councillor that wants to speak, the recommendations 1 to 4 have been proposed by Councillor Miss Carey and seconded by Councillor Godfrey. All those in favour? Thank you, that is unanimous. Now that means that we can look forward in the future to having a more detailed proposal come back before it goes for planning permission. Okay, thank you very much.